in the south of France is steeped in beauty and history. It's a feast for the eyes with fields of lavender and sunflowers, and a feast for the senses with locally grown food and traditional markets. Hi, my name is Catherine, and I love to read books and travel. Last year, I visited friends who live in Provence near the famous Roman aqueduct bridge, Pont de Gare. I fell in love with this region, and after the holiday, I read a lot of books set in Provence. Here are 4 that I enjoyed. First up is well-known author Peter Mayle, who moved from the UK to Provence in the 80s. He wrote an instant bestseller called A Year in Provence, sharing his experience of buying a house and settling in the region. Many books, much fame, and 25 years later, he repeated that success with his final book, My 25 Years in Provence. It's a memoir that takes you on a gentle stroll through the best aspects of Provence living. This is the ultimate book for any traveller wanting to retrace their footsteps through little villages, or for those that dream about moving to Provence. I particularly liked how he described the changing seasons, from racing to collect the olives before the winter frost sets in, to the arrival of spring wildflowers and summer visitors. However, I have heard Mayle is still disliked by the locals in Manerbe, where he first lived. As in his first book, he had portrayed many local people in a patronising manner, and did not even try to conceal their identities. Even the postman's diligence in delivering the mail is questioned. However, in my opinion, every book by Mayle is a treat to enjoy. Book 2 is Madame, Will You Talk by Mary Stewart. It's a quaint murder mystery set in and around Avignon and Marseille in the 1950s. Our heroine, Mrs. Selborne, is on holiday from England and gets tangled up in something far bigger than she bargained for. Recognising that all is not well with another visitor, 10-year-old David, she uses her quick thinking to puzzle out what can be done. A word of warning: if you are offended by the norms of the 1950s, like females having a door held open for them, then there are a few spots in this book where you will cringe. In my opinion, this did not affect the story in any way. I especially like the action, centred around the arena of Nîmes, with the hustle and bustle of buses, cars, cafes, and deception. This was the first book of author Mary Stewart, who went on to be one of the 20th century's best-selling and best-loved novelists. Book 3 is a little-known gem, a collection of short stories written from the point of view of a Parisian poet who has escaped to the south and set himself up in a windmill in Provence. The book is called Letters from My Windmill by Alphonse Daudet. The stories are mainly set in Provence, with excursions to Corsica and Algeria, and they focus on his observations of the locals, their practices, and often contrasting the highs and lows of rural life. Will the baker's wife return? Or will Father Gucci's secret wine recipe die with him? I particularly enjoyed the descriptions. Daudet made me smell the lavender in the fields or the bread cooking in the oven with just a few simple words. What surprised me about the book was how crisp and modern the writing was for a book that was published in 1869. Book 4 is my favourite genre, historical fiction, and it's called The Avignon Legacy by Daniel Lorti. This is a sweeping tale of honour and trust through 14th century Provence. The book starts with a peasant family escaping unrest in their village. During a journey through a forest, they encounter a French knight, and this changes their lives. My favourite characters are the 2 young French knights, John and Maurice, with their escapades and unbreakable friendship. This is a book of 2 halves, and halfway along we jump to the 20th century, and the treasure hunt begins with criminals, deceit, and surprises. Along the way, we learn a lot about the Popes of Avignon and the turbulent times for anyone living in Provence in the 14th century. Having walked through the Pope's palace on my holiday, this book really brought the times alive for me. The story unfolds in a chronological order, so it's easy to follow along and enjoy. And that's just 4 of many books set in Provence. What are your favourite books with a Provence flavour? Leave a comment below.